Our lesson tonight is on chapter 9 of the book, and that chapter is entitled Putting an End to Procrastination Now. And chapter 10, Declare Your Independence. I was talking to one of you just a few weeks ago, and this man had told me of his tendency to procrastinate, and had spelled out in some detail for me to hear in a very frank and open way what procrastination was doing to retard his progress. He said, "I'm probably the worst procrastinator you've ever seen, and I really am going to do something about it soon." Are you a procrastinator? Be careful. Did you know that procrastination is the closest there is to a universal erroneous zone? That it comes very close to be one thing in error that we all have in common? And in this erroneous zone, there is nothing unhealthy about the behavior itself. There are many of our erroneous zone behavior that is very unhealthy and unacceptable behavior. For example, anger. We'll get into that next week. There are a number of erroneous zone activities that are very destructive and unacceptable in polite society. But procrastination does not have those unhealthy overtones. You see, putting it off, in fact, doesn't even exist. You simply don't do it. It is something that you don't do. Something that you don't do that very definitely needs to be done by you and can only be done by you. And you know that you need to do it. And you know that you're going to do it soon. That's procrastination. Oh, it is so simple and so innocuous, and there is nothing really unhealthy about it at all, is there? Of all of your erroneous zones, there's perhaps not one that is more stifling than procrastination, because it will really cut your engine off. It does something to the emotions. It does something to the feeling nature that immobilizes. And there is a neurotic behavioral response to all of us in areas in which we have practiced procrastination. It will make you sick at your stomach. It will make you ill where you feel. And it will keep you from experiencing the good that is yours to experience. It is a very destructive thing, although on the surface it is not at all. Very nice people do it regularly. Recently, has someone called and said they were going to stop by. They were on the way. And you said, "Well, give me about 30 minutes," implying I've got to take a shower or fix my hair. But what you really had to do was go scrambling through the apartment or the house to get everything fixed before they got there, because you knew when they walked in and saw the place through their eyes, there would be immediately a negative reflection of your image in their mind. The garments on the floor that had to be picked up, the closet door that had to be shut. You know. Right now, think of the kitchen sink. Or whatever it is. In your case, it might not be the kitchen sink, but it is that something that you really are going to take care of and keep straight sometime soon. You really are. Except you really are not. You really are not. You're not going to do it. Not unless you see that you are a procrastinator, and unless you see how very devastatingly bad it is. It's very bad. Dyer gives 3 neurotic phrases of the procrastinator that make up the support system for maintaining putting it off behavior. This is only a part of the pattern. You've heard these phrases before. Well, I hope things will work out. I hope. I wish things were better. Who doesn't? Maybe it'll be okay. There's one he left out, and I can understand why. It's this one. God will provide. Oh, ho, ho. Of course he will if we go into action. But there is a certain activity that is ours. In your life and in my life, there are a certain number of things, very significant and seemingly insignificant things, that are our responsibility. And there is an order that must be established around us and can only be established by us. God himself cannot straighten your garage if you won't get out there. There's no way that it can be done except through the conscious activity and the willingness to establish a new order in your life. And the larger good cannot come except that the smaller good is entered into. And as long as you say maybe, or I hope, or I wish, and wait for something to happen, it cannot happen. Patience never ever means doing nothing or ignoring the things that ought to be done by us. And so often we think this is what patience really means. I'll be patient, meaning I will avoid as much as I possibly can. And that is not patience. Patience is really getting with it. It is going into action and being patient, knowing that as you move into action, the results are inevitable. But if you don't move into action, the results are inevitable. You will crash. You will fail. You will get caught. I will guarantee you that every procrastinator on this earth will get caught. And by being caught, I do not mean that friends will just see the obvious evidence of our procrastination, but I mean caught by the consequences of procrastination. The consequences are inertia, a lack of the good that we want, the lack of the fulfillment that we are actually praying for, and in our emotional state, depression, and ultimately boredom. Most procrastinators are bored people. By bored, I mean life just is no fun for them. There's no joy. There's no place to have fun. And it's always the fault of the city. Or whatever it is. The food is just not good. The company, do you know what I'm talking about? And I'll tell you something else about procrastinators. You listen to them, and they are the world's greatest critics. The people who do the least complain the most. And it really is a cover-up. Do you know that from time to time in our fellowship area, the workers there get complaints? But the complaints are usually by those of us here this evening who do not even make the effort to deposit our empty coffee cups. Is that an indictment? No, it's a report. Go into action. You're a spiritual being, and you were designed to move upon the waters of your life and to see and to know and to make decisions. And when there is something in your life that ought to be done by you, do it. Pick up your clothing. Dyer says it doesn't make any difference whether your clothing is on the floor or hanging in the closet, and I disagree with that. It makes a difference to you. It makes a difference to your image of yourself. And if you don't believe it, go home tonight and spread your garments on the floor and see how you feel when you wake up in the morning. You bet. Order is the first law of the universe, is it not? It is, and any scientist will tell you that, and you need not be a scientist. It is, and if order is the first law of the universe, it is the first law of your consciousness. And order requires the doing of things specific to the life of every individual. You're upon this earth. And there are things that you cannot avoid. Yes, you can avoid them. And that's called procrastination. But the avoidance of those things wrecks the consciousness to such an extent that there's no way to report to you how devastating it is. But the effects are so insidious that one never ever sees where it's coming from. The little things that we do not do destroy the fulfillment of the larger things that are ours to experience. And the class this afternoon was a lot like this, but it was different. Because I'm, just coming out of me. And there was one woman seated right there, and she kept going through that book, trying to find what I was saying. It's not there. So get your copy and read it to see what is there. You see, if you are a procrastinator, live in a kind of a fantasy world. It's not a now world. And in order to get into the now, one must do the things that ought to be done. And the joy of it is that when you set your mind to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish, remembering that your mind is a goal-seeking mechanism and that you are basically an achiever. You are an achiever. You cannot fail. You simply cannot fail. And when you procrastinate, you're practicing a success system in reverse. That's all it is. But it is complete and total success. But as you move into the doing of the things that your mind sees as being necessary for the unfolding order that is important around you in your life, in your areas of primary responsibility, whatever they happen to be. You have areas of primary responsibility that are natural to you. Some of them you have chosen. Others have been assigned to you due to the moment of your birth and those things that have followed as the result. And the fulfilling of those responsibilities is all important. The point I was about to make was this. Never ever tell yourself, I'll wait and it will get better. Time has never ever fixed one thing. Ever. It cannot. Only the activity of your mind can do that. I'll give you an example that you will understand. If something is wrong with your car, you will not say to yourself, I'll keep driving it and it'll get better. I've heard some people say that, and it stops along the way. You know that you're going to have to take it in and let it receive its proper attention. And so it is in your life or mine. The moment that we begin to make a decision to move into an area of assuming responsibility and overcoming procrastination, and if you can find in your mind right now some such area in your life, or more than one, can you? Are you thinking of something? Please do. Find an area in which you have been putting off. And we'll come to some. If your mind has not yet been prompted, I'm sure it will in the next few minutes. And make a decision to move into that kind of activity and watch what will begin to happen to you. If you will find a primary area of procrastination and make a joyous decision to overcome it, and begin immediately now to do it. Your decision is now. And begin the process as quickly as you can, as soon as you get home, if at all possible, and certainly tomorrow, in a now moment. The sense of joy, of happiness, and of peace that will come over you will absolutely astonish you. You'll be amazed. And more than that, the energy that will come to you. The energy that will come to you will charge you so that there will be electricity zinging right off of your fingertips. And I'll guarantee it. You find something that you know you should do and you haven't been doing, and you start doing it, asking for help. And the power that comes, I've got goosebumps right now just feeling it, because I really know how it works. I know what happens. The energy, the momentum that comes. Procrastination causes an inertia of the emotions and of the mind and of the body. Therefore, If you move into the movement, the doing of things that you need to do, the exact opposite of that happens. There's a zeal that takes charge. And once again, we have to go to Charles Fillmore and that statement that I make too often, perhaps. This old skinny man, 94 years old, putting his legs over the edge of that bed one bright spring morning. Can't you just see him just quivering there with that shaky voice saying, I just fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. The things that ought to be done by me. Think about that for a moment. The things that ought to be done by me and cannot be done by any other human being, because even if I get them to do it, if I con them into it or hire them to do it, it's still not done by me. And so therefore it is not done. It will never be done until you do it. And you will never be at peace until you do it. And there'll be something missing in your mind and in your emotions until you do it. Do you hear how important this is inside yourself? It is vital. The word vital means life itself. It is life itself. Your life must spring into action in those areas of its responsibility. I personally do not want a close involvement with a procrastinator. By that I mean, I wouldn't go into partnership with a procrastinator in a business partnership. Chaos is the result of that. Do not over-involve yourself with people who procrastinate, because inertia follows. Stagnation sets in. Malaise, depression. They will criticize you behind your back, and later not even behind your back. That's the way it really works. And there may be some areas in which we really do get things done in our lives, and other areas in which we really don't get things done in our lives, and we need to look. You see, you are not necessarily what you say. You are what you do. And the most often quoted statement from English literature, do you know what it is? It's by Emerson. Do not say things. What a man is speaks so loud that I cannot hear what he says. And what a man is what he does. It is what you are doing. That's what you are. It is what you are doing with your life. And it is not the large things. There's not a person here that cannot rise to a large thing. If we had an earthquake, we had some natural catastrophe here in the Detroit area, we'd all rise to that occasion. Every one of us would. It's the small areas in which we fail, in which we put off the doing with the best of intentions, and the results are absolutely staggering to our minds, devastating, the inertia that follows. Now, the next time you say that you'll get it done, and know that you won't, stop right then and catch yourself and have a little visit with yourself. Stop playing games about procrastinating. It is an erroneous zone that is, at this time, causing great damage in the life of every person here without exception. That's all of us. Okay? Here's some typical procrastinating behavior. Staying in a job in which you find yourself stuck and unable to grow. You're not going anywhere, and you know that you never are, but you don't do anything about it. Time will take care of it. Something will happen. Hanging onto a relationship that has gone sour. Staying married or unmarried and merely hoping that it will get better, but really not doing anything about it. No confrontations, no real admission both to yourself and the other party, no professional counseling if necessary. If something is not working, do something about it. Stop putting it off. Go and get with it. Nothing is going to happen until you go into action. And if you put it off, it will get worse. It always gets worse. Refusing to work on relationship difficulties such as sex, shyness, or fears. simply waiting for them to improve. Not tackling addictions such as alcoholism, drugs, pills, or smoking, saying, I'll quit when I'm ready. Or I'll quit after Christmas. What drunk ever quit drinking before Christmas? But when Christmas is over, then New Year's. Did you know in Alcoholics Anonymous, the greatest influx of alcoholics is between the 2nd and the 15th of January every year? Avoiding a confrontation with others such as an authority figure, a friend, a lover, a salesperson, or a service person. Having your car fixed and they haven't done it right, and you put off really getting with it. And I'm not talking about with anger, but saying, look, we've just got to do something about it. Being afraid to change locations geographically. You stay in the same place for a lifetime. Deciding to start your diet when? Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Using sleep or tiredness as a reason for putting it off. I'm just too tired today. I'm too sleepy. And it's amazing how sleepy we get when we see something that we have to do. Living your entire life for your children, putting off your own happiness. Make a decision now, like right now, to find, to uncover, to discover an erroneous zone of procrastination, something that you have not been doing. Attacking the whole thing inside yourself, becoming a doer, one who moves into activity. And watch the power that will come to you. Watch the energy that will flow. Watch the peace. Watch the excitement. You will come alive. I'll guarantee it. And if you will attack one area of procrastination, the energy that comes to you will move you into others and then into others, and in time it will become such a sweet thing that you will look around and hope that you can find another one there. It really begins to be fun. If you want the world to change, first change yourself. And a very good way to do it is to find something that needs to be done by you and cannot be done by any other person, and do it. Don't put it off. Do it. Do it. And you'll see that anxiety will leave you, apprehension will leave you, the depression that you thought you were about to have will disappear, because that depression is coming from something. Our second chapter tonight is an equally important declaration. And it's entitled, Declare Your Independence. And Dyer said, in any relationship in which two people become one, the end result is two half people. How many times have you seen two people try to find their identity in each other, becoming one person? And there's no such thing as two people becoming one person. You end up being two half people. But you don't end up being two half people. Anyone that tries this is only a half a person going in, trying to become a whole person by finding someone else to be identified with. And you've heard me say many times that two half people don't even make one whole person. There's no way. You cannot find your identity in any other person. The only way that you can become happy is to discover, to uncover, to reveal, to become who you are. And as you become who you are, you will not settle for half people in your life. You may love some half people, but you don't want to go into business with them, like marriage or other little intimate enterprises like that, because it simply will not work out. You find somebody that can't live without you, and you had better make tracks. If they're not living pretty good by themselves before you get there, don't pause when you arrive. Because they're a half person trying to make themselves whole by stuffing you inside their minds. And they cannot do it. Their life is filled with erroneous zones, and you have come along to make them happy, but you cannot. they will make you miserable in the process. There's only one thing that can make you happy, and that's the unfolding of your own self. There's no substitute for your own wholeness. And only people who are eliminating their erroneous zones can be really happy with each other. Did you know that? You are in the process of doing something about yourself. Is that correct? Okay. You can never really be happy with anyone else who is not also involved in the process of doing something about themselves. You can't. Now, it doesn't mean that you and another person has to have arrived at the complete fulfillment of yourself. It's a process, and not one of us will completely fulfill it in this experience in these gorgeous little bodies that we are wearing. But it's the process. Once involved, the happiness comes. It's just like you don't have to have solved all of your problems to be happy. You don't. You can't. But when you discover that problems are a part of the process and you accept them for what they really are and take away their power to control your emotions, then you begin to find that the working with problems becomes one of the most powerful experiences for your own growth. You ask any successful business person, he will tell you that in that business, the process of discovering the problems and working for the solutions, not ignoring the problems, but working with the problems, knowing that there's always a solution. And if you have a member of your staff that doesn't believe in solutions, he's got some grave erroneous zones and maybe needs to work somewhere else. You bet. And knowing that these things called problems are merely opportunities for your growth, for your unfoldment. So it is with you. And in our human relationships, there is a tendency for us to be outer or other dependent. Our dependency is on other persons. We have built that dependency. We've been trained that way from birth. We've believed that we cannot be happy without them. How many times have you heard that in your life and believed it yourself? You can. Leaving the psychological nest is one of life's difficult chores. And families who really do understand principles help their children to become dependent, not upon the family, but upon the principle. They help them to discover the hidden talents that are always there and to march out into their own experience, leaving the nest behind. And it's a joyous fulfillment. Do you want to be a parent for the rest of your life? We don't, do we? We want children to grow up to become themselves and to experience themselves and to feel the freedom of that experience. Not this eternal leaning on each other, but it is the development of strengths. And any union, whether it be in the relationship of a family or of friends, that is based on the coming together of our weaknesses reinforcing each other, is basically an unsound and self-defeating and suffering-producing relationship of a dependency on other persons. Now, leaving the nest in the sense that I'm speaking of it and the diary speaking of it means becoming your own person and living and choosing the behaviors that you want, not those that have been assigned you by your childhood. It's psychologically stepping out and rising up and becoming the person that is already there. You don't have to create the person. The person is already there. You are already there. Did you know it? You already are there. And all that you ever will be or can be is already there, seeking to experience itself and to discover itself. But if you are overly dependent on other persons and places, you cannot do that. So psychological dependence means relationships that involve no choice. A relationship in which you're obliged to be something that you don't want to be and that you resent. You are the forced product of your environment, and that cannot work. Now, being psychologically independent involves not needing others. And the moment that I say that, someone here shudders inside. You mean that I can't need other people? I didn't say wanting others. I said needing. Because the moment you need, you become vulnerable and you become a slave. For example, if the one that you have decided that you need changes his mind, wow. What happens to your whole psychological structuring? Suppose that changing his mind means selecting her. That's devastating, isn't it? Or suppose he dies. Do you know that I was 29 years old before I forgave my father for dying? It's the truth. I did not know how I resented my father for leaving me at the age of 6 in the predicament that was my excruciating experience for many years. And then I discovered that he could not help dying. And I forgave him. And such a peace came over my mind. And I did not know that that was an erroneous zone. He had left me. And he had no choice, of course. But do you see what happens when we have these kind of dependencies that we have not yet released? And so if you've had these dependencies and these persons on whom you have been dependent, and you have had them in your life, release them now. Go over the list of people in your mind one by one and make an exercise of this and make a list of it and release them. Release your parents and your siblings and your friends who deserted you, including the ones who died. And know that they could not help it. And remember that every person that you need in your life, you can have in your life. But release them. And release them with love and with joy. Because you are an interdependent person. That's the kind of independence that we need, interdependence. Independence does not mean that you and I alone can achieve what we desire in life. We cannot. I need you. I need you in a certain way in my life, but I need you coming from your strength. I do not need you shaped or molded to suit me, because you already suit me real good, just like you are. But I need what's happening in you, that strength. And together, you, with your interdependence, your dependence upon that one power, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And me with my interdependence. There's nothing that together we cannot achieve. And yet neither of us is requiring anything of the other of us. And this is what love really is. It is that I do not require you to be other than what you are, because I know that with the fullness of your unfolding responsibility, that every moment of your life you are striving to be the best you that you can possibly be. And I trust that in you. And I give you the freedom to be that, and I rejoice in it. I treasure it. It is power. It is love. It is freedom. And it is great strength. There's a story that I wanted to tell you about. Walt Disney did a movie that was entitled Bear Country. And perhaps you saw it. And it was the story, the unfolding story of a she-bear and her 2 cubs. And in this story, you watch the mother bear as she taught her cubs how to hunt and fish and climb trees and how to steal honey from bees, and they got stung and licked their wounds, and it didn't deter them from the honey at all. She taught them how to protect themselves when they were confronted with danger. And then one day, one special day, and you could almost sense when that day was coming, the mother bear forced her cubs to scamper up a tree. You see, she had decided that it was time to leave. And she left forever. In her own bear mind, she had completed her parental responsibilities, and she left. Now listen to this. Not one time did she manipulate them into visiting her on alternate Sundays. She never did accuse them of being ungrateful for all of the marvelous things she had done for them, the sacrifices that she had made. She never threatened to have a nervous breakdown if they disappointed her. She simply let them go. And with us humans, that instinct is also there. But there is some neurotic need that we have developed in the race consciousness to own and to live one's life through others. And it cannot be done successfully. It is always the destruction of our identity when we try to have such an experience. Now, in families that focus on interdependence, that's independence. And we're such a family here. We are conscious of movement toward being one's own person. The more you become who you are, the more you please all the rest of us. And as you move in that direction and have the experiences that must follow that, then you inspire the rest of us. You return with a new energy and with a story to tell about the success of your experience. Isn't that correct? And you'll be doing that tonight downstairs. I probably won't leave here until after 11 o'clock, and some of you will still be doing just exactly that, the sharing of your own experience and the strength and the hope that comes to you from your own unfoldment. And the rest of us need that from you. Don't just come here to receive. Come here to give the strength and the dignity and the power, the vibration that comes from what's happening to you. Let that story tell itself, because it will. Sometimes you will not need to speak. And other times you'll need to speak very personally to someone who needs to hear. But if you take yourself away from meetings such as this to go off to be yourself by yourself, you cannot become yourself. It is trying to be independent that makes you dependent, and you will ultimately end up finding a half person to live with, to be happy with. You go off by yourself with half people and see what happens. You've been there, and you know. Clinging and needing are not emphasized here. Absolutely not. It is the focusing and the experiencing of your strengths that are there, built within you. You came into this life with those strengths. They are spiritual in nature. They have been given to you, and all they need is recognition and expression in your life, moving into the activities of your normal and natural life, which then gives your strengths the power to become real and alive in your experience. In this kind of a family situation, whether it be of blood relatives or a spiritual family, there's no subtle manipulation, and there is no guilt imposed or threats implied. Just love and the recognition of mutual strength that is always reinforcing and very exciting. Dorothy Canfield Fisher once said, "A mother is not a person to lean on, but a person to make leaning unnecessary." So is a friend. A real friend will not let you lean on them very long. Yes, they'll come and put their arms around you for a moment. But in a little while, they're going to get sick and tired of you being sick and tired all the time. And they'll tell you about it with love. And they will require that you join them in their strengths. This is what friendship really is. I need to be surrounded by strong people. The stronger I am in my life, the more I need strong people. Whole people or three-quarter people or whatever it is that we are as we unfold toward our destined good. In the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the traditions is principles before personalities. Principles. And here, what is it that we're teaching but principles, the principles of the successful living of your life? And in no way are you depending upon any personality, including and especially my own. It is the application of these principles in your own experience. You're proving that these ideas work because you are changing. Tonight, there's someone seated here, but earlier this evening told me the story. It's taken place in his professional life recently. And the man in his business who was his garnet, you've heard me tell my garnet story, the person that I was just going to fix real good permanently. He had a garnet in his life. And his garnet came up to him quite recently and said, whatever it is that's happening to you, I want some of it. You see, whatever it is that's happening to you as you grow, they will want some of it because you're coming from your strengths, the natural and spiritual strengths that are already there. And this requires the giving up of the leaning on and of the dependency upon other people. Marriage is frequently a relationship wherein the two people have been joined together in their weaknesses. You've heard me say that most people are not in love with each other, they're in sick with each other. They come together from the weak sides of themselves, and they support those sides of themselves, and they build a structured thing and a series of reactions. And in this kind of relationship, you ultimately end up with the dominance and the submission. The male is not always the dominant one. I know some pretty strong female types that work the other way. And where you find this dominant, submissive relationship, in time, in some instances, it becomes unbearable to the submissive one. Not to the dominant one, because they've got a good thing going. They're walking down both sides of the street at the same time. They like it pretty good. But when the submissive one finally loses so much of their identity that they can't stand it anymore and begin to break out and to move forward into the becoming of a whole person, then the dominant one will always feel threatened, will become anxious. You see, the last thing that they want is an upstart spouse, even though they may have encouraged that one to think for themselves. Thinking for yourself means think like I think for yourself. But when you start thinking like you think, they do not like it, and all kinds of things begin to happen. First, they'll try guilt. The children are going to suffer. Or how could you do this to me after all the love that I've given you? Or then they'll try threats like a divorce is imminent. Or if you don't stop this, I may commit suicide. Or some such thing. And it frequently works. There are people in your life right now that know how to punch your button, and you have not caught it yet. You have not declared your independence from this dependency, and they are pushing your guilt and your fear button, and you're reacting all over the place. So catch it. Find this erroneous zone in you, and declare that you're going to do something about it this week. Will you do it? Remember that dependency is not something that just happens because you have lived with a domineering person. You chose that person, and you chose to be dominated. You have selected this experience. And if you're waiting for them to change, you'll wait forever. The change must come from you. And you're going to have to let the chips fall where they may. Come to class next week and tell me what happens. And so it is.
This concludes the lesson on Side B of tape number 3. Now proceed to tape number 4 for the continuation of Freedom from Your Erroneous Zones.